Namaste. Today, I want to share some thoughts about teaching. When I left my degree at IIT, I was actually have decided that I'm not going to do any kind of teaching or lecturing. I mean, anything that kind of faces public audience because I thought that was not really something that I can do. And I said, no, I don't want to become a teacher. I don't want to do any lecturing. And after coming here also to NCST, I more or less retained that image of not getting into any teaching. But slowly, when I found the environment, everybody was enjoying the teaching and the classes were interesting. The students were very, very well motivated. I decided to try, and slowly over maybe a few iterations, I think I've been able to play all kinds of roles with respect to academics. When you say roles, this means creating lecture slides, delivering the lectures, conducting evaluations, setting up question papers, even video recording the lectures because some of our courses required affiliate centers being using the similar content. So we experimented with the various kinds of video recording technologies. This is remember, it's again 20 plus years back. There was no fancy devices to do all this recording like what I'm doing now. At that time, if you wanted to do video recording, you need to get a video recording person with all those fancy cameras, special lights, and even have to wear proper shirts so that your image comes out okay. But we did all that. I did a bunch of lectures on data structures and algorithms, and we even worked with IIT Bombay and delivered some courses on again data structures and algorithms as part of their distance education program, which was just starting up at that time. So this was all very, very, very interesting learning experiences. And further, I've actually taught various courses at NCST and CDAC, as well as at IIT, as where I was an adjunct faculty for some time. And also been interacting with a lot of engineering colleges. And so I find teaching is something that we all should do. Why do I say that? One is, of course, many of us might have a problem of facing audience and the confidence and all that. But that is something that I'm sure you can get over with some trials. So once you are, do it with a small group. So I used to recommend that take up something like a lab faculty or lab assistant role. So you interact with the students, you work with them, but you don't actually face a larger audience and you don't have to prepare a lot of things upfront and organize. But and then once you build some comfort, do it for a small group like a professional education courses or something where your audience will be a smaller group and more learning motivated. So, and then you can slowly expand your scope to cover bigger and wider space of things, larger audience, proper student lectures and all that. So it has to be a small grooming process by through which we actually get to that level. So that is something that you can conquer with all that. And there's so much of literature also available on how to face audience and how to, overcome stage fright and all that. So that's something we can handle. But the more important part of it is, I have found that when I actually stand in front of an audience and talk to them, and I may have some slides, I may not have, and slides also have evolved over the period. We have those transparency sheets where we write and then project it with a projector to today's PowerPoint slides and other device mechanism that you have to organize. But either way, when you stand in front of an audience and try to explain things on your own, it should not be that you're just like a slide reader. That's a very bad thing to do for you as well as for the student. So I certainly don't accept that as a teaching method or modality at all. So keep important points, formulas, pictures, these kind of things on your slide because they become an organizer for you. You kind of plan out your session, kind of help in planning out the session. The rest you should actually improvise. You should actually talk about your own. Ideally, try and connect it with what is currently happening around, or in nationally, internationally, in the institute and all that. So it kind of builds some amount of easy connect. And remember, all of learning is about building connections in your brain, right? So what you are communicating to the student, if he is able to link it with something that he is already familiar with and etc., then the learning is much better, and they will appreciate that. Okay, yes, I did learn something at the end of the session. So this ability to connect is enhanced when you are actually able to talk on your own and being able to dynamically link with what is happening, link with what the students have asked in the class or in the previous sessions and all that kind of things. Okay, so that is one part. Now, in that process, when you are able to articulate something on your own based on a concept, and let's say Newton's law or AVL trees or whatever, when you are able to articulate, you will understand how well you have understood that topic. So, as somebody has said, the best way to learn a subject is to either write a book about it or to teach that subject. And what is interesting about both of this is both of these are very highly reflective, because unless you reflect, you understand, you can think over and connect it what you are going to say with other things around, you won't be able to communicate it properly, right? So when I stand in front and I talk to them, I realize that okay, no, I mean I don't see the link between these 2 points, for example. And that's a good point for me to come back and refresh, read more material, go and search books and etc. So that by the next time I am more, I have my understanding of that subject has become much deeper, right? So this is very useful for me because I learned the subject. So I think when I was teaching data structures, I think that was the first course I started teaching here. Over something like 7 or 8 years, I have actually taught that course. I built my own slides and all that eventually. But the interesting thing was, every semester or every term I was teaching that subject, I would try and read a different book on that subject. So why that was important is because every book, as I have mentioned elsewhere, every book is that author's perspective of that subject. And that's how it should be, because a book has to communicate to its readers. And so in that process, you may find some gaps in every presentation. So when you read another book, you will approach that subject from a different angle. And that is very good, because then you can connect up these two pieces and say, oh, okay, what he was saying there is actually this. And that's a fantastic way to get on top of the subject. It was when I did about 4 or 5 books over for 3-4 years, that I thought yes, I understand the data structures flow from linear to single parent, multiple child to completely non-linear graph structures. Then I said, okay, now maybe I can now create my own way of teaching that subject. So I created my flow with my details and my code segments, and that became more comfortable for me because it is the way that I can relate to that subject. So these kind of things will happen once you are able to get into that. So when you read a book, it might look as if, I understood everything, right? But when as many of us know, when you sit in the exam hall, you realize how little you have understood. So teaching or writing a book is like an exam hall. That's the time when you realize what your gaps are and how much you have understood, what you can explain in your own words. As Feynman is said to have remarked sometime, that you have understood a subject if you can explain it to a young child, maybe 8 years or 10-year old child. If you are able to explain that concept to that child, that means your understanding is much clearer. Okay, so I think all of these kind of knits together. So I would actually suggest that all of us take up some teaching. It can be, you can be a teacher to your kids, you can to your neighbors' kids, to a school, to a college, to your own organization, colleagues. You can have training programs, but do get into it, but do it seriously. I mean, as I said, don't become slide readers and, just copy something from somewhere and reproduce, but let it actually pass through your head, your brain, and interpret it in your own way and then present it to the audience. They will love it because, it's actually processed, understood, well articulated information that they are getting. You will enjoy it because you are able to connect that with whatever else around and other things that you know, and it will also be a big teaching learning process for you. So do try if you haven't already done, and if you are doing teaching, try doing it the way I was talking about it, because I have enjoyed it and I still would be happy to go and talk to students, etc. But I create completely my own slides. I do my own presentation. I want to do it in the way I have understood, and that way more makes me more comfortable. And I think there is more value for the learner also, and for me to understand what are the gaps that is still remaining in my understanding. Good day. So till we meet again the next session.